The planet Zarnok lay in ruins. Once a thriving colony, it now stood as a testament to devastation. Shattered buildings and scorched landscapes stretched as far as the eye could see. Among the wreckage, a small alien girl named Lyra scavenged for anything that might sustain her. Lyra's skin, a soft lavender hue, was marred with dirt and bruises. Her large, luminous eyes, characteristic of her race, the Nixie, held a mixture of fear and determination. She was all alone. Her family and fellow colonists had perished in the attack that had reduced Zarnok to rubble. The invaders had come without warning, their ships descending from the sky like a plague. Lyra had been playing near the edge of the settlement when the first explosions rocked the ground. She remembered the screams, the blinding flashes of light, and the heat that scorched her skin as she ran. She had hidden in a narrow crevice between two collapsed buildings, her small body trembling with terror. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra survived on scraps of food and water she found amidst the debris. Her once vibrant clothing was now tattered, and her body grew weaker with each passing day. She avoided the open spaces, fearing the return of the monstrous machines that had destroyed her world. Every shadow, every sound, made her heart race with panic. Captain Thorne, a grizzled old spacefarer, was piloting his ship, the Starfire, through a nearby sector when Sarah, his ship's AI, detected faint life signs on Zarnok. The data showed the remnants of a catastrophic event, but the readings indicated a solitary survivor. Curiosity piqued, Thorne altered his course and descended towards the planet. The Starfire landed softly amid the ruins, its landing struts sinking slightly into the ash-covered ground. Thorne, clad in a worn but sturdy exosuit, stepped out, his eyes scanning the desolate landscape. He activated his handheld scanner, which beeped insistently, guiding him towards the life signs. Moving cautiously through the rubble, Thorne's seasoned eyes caught movement. A small figure darted between the shadows, too quick to be clearly seen. He called out gently, his voice amplified by the suit's external speakers. "Hello? I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help." Lyra, hiding behind a partially collapsed wall, peeked out. She saw the tall figure in strange armor and felt a mixture of fear and curiosity. Gathering her courage, she slowly stepped into the open, her legs shaky from malnutrition. Thorne's heart ached at the sight of the emaciated girl. He approached slowly, kneeling down to her level. "Hey there, it's okay," he said softly, removing his helmet to show his face. His kind eyes and gentle demeanor reassured her. "I'm Captain Thorne. What's your name?" "Lyra," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Lyra, I'm going to take you somewhere safe," Thorne promised. He offered her a nutrient bar, which she accepted with trembling hands. As she ate ravenously, Thorne gently lifted her into his arms, carrying her back to the Starfire. Sarah, sensing the presence of a new passenger, prepared the medical bay. Aboard the Starfire, Lyra faced a new world of technology and routines that were entirely foreign to her. The ship's sleek corridors and humming machinery were a stark contrast to the natural surroundings of her home planet. At first, everything was overwhelming. The hum of the engines, the artificial gravity, and the sterile environment made her feel out of place and scared. Captain Thorne and Sarah, the ship's AI, worked patiently to help her adjust. Thorne, with his gruff exterior hiding a kind heart, took on the role of a caretaker, showing Lyra around the ship and explaining how things worked. He taught her how to use the food synthesizer, which provided nutritious meals at the push of a button. An astonishing concept for Lyra. She marveled at the variety of foods available, cautiously trying new flavors and textures. Sarah, the AI, projected a holographic image to interact with Lyra, often taking the form of a friendly, glowing entity. Sarah had a soothing voice, designed to comfort and educate. She introduced Lyra to basic galactic languages and helped her understand the ship's functions. Through interactive lessons, Lyra learned how to navigate the ship's systems, gaining confidence with each passing day. Despite the crew's efforts, Lyra struggled with the vastness of space. She often spent time staring out of the viewport, watching the stars streak by. The infinite darkness made her feel small and insignificant. Thorne, noticing her anxiety, shared stories of his own adventures and losses, hoping to make her feel less alone. He recounted tales of distant planets, battles won and lost, and friends made along the way. Slowly, Lyra began to see the Starfire not just as a ship, but as a new home. One day, while exploring a nearby star system, the Starfire detected an alien vessel on its long-range sensors. The ship, belonging to a race known as the Akrans, emitted a distress signal. Thorn decided to investigate, hoping to lend assistance and perhaps gather valuable information. As they approached, the Akran ship loomed large on the view screen, its sleek design indicating advanced technology. Thorn hailed the ship, and after a tense moment, the Akrans responded. Their leader, Commander Rax, appeared on the screen. Rax was a tall, imposing figure with scales that shimmered in hues of green and blue. His eyes narrowed with suspicion as he regarded Thorn and the human crew. "We received your distress signal," Thorn began. "Do you require assistance?" Rax hesitated before responding. "We encountered a malfunction in our propulsion system. Assistance would be appreciated, human." Thorn and his crew worked diligently to repair the Akran ship, forging a tentative alliance in the process. Lyra watched from the safety of the Starfire, her curiosity piqued by the new species. Once the repairs were completed, Rax invited Thorn and his crew aboard for a diplomatic exchange. Lyra accompanied Thorn, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The interior of the Akran ship was a marvel of bioorganic technology, with walls that seemed to pulse with life. As they were led to the meeting chamber, Lyra's eyes widened at the sight of the Akran crew, each member displaying unique and mesmerizing features. During the meeting, Thorn and Rax discussed the political landscape of the galaxy. Rax revealed that the Akrans were part of a larger coalition of races, all working together to maintain peace and stability. Thorn shared his own experiences and the plight of Lyra's home planet. Rax listened intently, his expression softening as he learned about Lyra's tragic past. The discussion turned to Lyra herself when she stepped forward, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I am Lyra of Zarnok," she said, her gaze meeting Rax's. "My people were attacked, and I am the only survivor." Rax regarded her with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Your survival is remarkable, young one. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, but also full of allies. You are not alone." One evening, as the Starfire floated in the shadow of a moon, an Akran fleet appeared on their radar. They quickly surrounded the ship, their intentions clear. Rax, now showing a more aggressive side, contacted Thorn. "Captain Thorn," Rax's voice was cold and firm, "you will surrender the girl or face the consequences." Thorn's jaw tightened. "Lyra is under my protection. We won't hand her over." A tense silence followed, then the first shots were fired. The Starfire shook violently as energy blasts impacted its shields. Thorn and his crew scrambled to their battle stations, the small ship struggling to evade the larger Akran vessels. Lyra, feeling the ship tremble around her, ran to the control room. Her heart pounded with fear and anger. Seeing the determination on Thorn's face, she knew she had to help. She reached out with her mind, tapping into the strange, raw power that had begun to awaken within her. As the battle raged on, Lyra's abilities manifested in unexpected ways. She extended her consciousness, sensing the minds of the Akran pilots. With a concentrated effort, she disrupted their coordination, causing confusion and mistakes. The Akran ships faltered, their formations breaking apart. Thorn, realizing what Lyra was doing, ordered his crew to take advantage of the chaos. The Starfire launched a counterattack, targeting key systems on the Akran ships. One by one, the enemy vessels were disabled or forced to retreat. The Starfire managed to break through the encirclement and escape into hyperspace. Thorn and Sarah set up a training regimen for Lyra. Each day she would spend hours in the ship's holodeck, practicing her telepathic and energy manipulation skills. The holodeck could simulate various environments and scenarios, providing Lyra with the challenges she needed to hone her abilities. Lyra's progress was remarkable. She learned to move objects with her mind, create protective energy shields, and even heal minor wounds. However, her most impressive talent was her ability to link her consciousness with others. She could sense their emotions, thoughts, and even influence their actions. This power, Thorn warned her, was both a gift and a responsibility. One evening, as they sat together in the mess hall, Thorn shared a story from his past. He spoke of an old friend, a Nixie who had possessed similar abilities. This friend had helped Thorn in many battles, using his powers to protect and heal. But the friend had also cautioned Thorn about the dangers of such gifts, warning that power without control could lead to destruction. Lyra listened intently, her eyes wide with understanding. "I want to use my powers to help, like your friend did," she said with determination. Thorn nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. "And you will, Lyra. But first you need to master them. We will guide you, but the journey is yours to take." Lyra's training continued, each day revealing new aspects of her abilities. She became more confident, her bond with Thorn and Sarah growing stronger. She started to see herself not just as a survivor, but as someone who could make a difference in the galaxy. The Starfire navigated through bustling trade routes and uncharted sectors to reach Vespera. As they approached, the view of the planet was breathtaking, a verdant world with sprawling cities and towering spires that gleamed in the sunlight. Thorn transmitted their request for an audience, and after a brief wait, they received clearance to land. Landing in the grand spaceport of Vespera, Thorn, Lyra, and a few trusted crew members made their way to the council chambers. The architecture was a blend of various cultures, symbolizing unity and cooperation. Inside, the council was in session, representatives from dozens of species seated in a circular hall. At the center stood the High Chancellor, a dignified figure with an aura of authority and wisdom. Thorn presented their case, detailing the destruction of Zarnok and the persecution they faced from the Akrans. He introduced Lyra, emphasizing her unique abilities and the potential danger if she fell into the wrong hands. The council members listened intently, their reactions mixed. Some were sympathetic, while others were wary of Lyra's powers. The debate was heated. Some representatives argued that Lyra's abilities posed a risk to galactic stability, while others believed she could be a force for good if properly guided. Thorn spoke passionately, vouching for Lyra's character and her potential to contribute positively to the galaxy. The Starfire remained docked at Vespera's spaceport, its crew enjoying a brief respite. Lyra, though still wary, started to relax, believing they were safe for the time being. Thorn, ever vigilant, maintained tight security measures, but the Shadows were adept at subterfuge. Late one night, the infiltration began. The Shadows used advanced cloaking technology to bypass the ship's defenses, slipping silently aboard. Their movements were precise and coordinated, disabling security systems and neutralizing guards with swift, non-lethal force. They moved through the corridors like phantoms, their goal clear: capture Lyra. Lyra, awakened by a sense of foreboding, crept out of her cabin. Her heart pounded as she sensed unfamiliar presences on the ship. She reached out with her mind, trying to warn Thorn, but it was too late. The Shadows found her, their leader. A tall figure clad in black grabbed her arm and injected a sedative. As darkness closed in, she felt herself being lifted and carried away. Thorn, alerted by the ship's alarms, raced through the halls, weapon at the ready. He encountered the intruders in the hangar bay. A fierce battle ensued, energy blasts illuminating the darkened space. Thorn fought with relentless determination, but the Shadows were highly trained and well-equipped. Despite his efforts, they managed to escape with Lyra, boarding a sleek, black ship that vanished into the night. Devastated but resolute, Thorn immediately began planning a rescue mission. He gathered his most trusted crew members, determined to track down the Shadows and bring Lyra back. Using the ship's advanced tracking systems and the information they had on the Shadows, they plotted a course to pursue the abductors. Lyra awoke in a high-security facility on a remote asteroid. Her surroundings were cold and sterile, the walls lined with advanced monitoring equipment. The Shadows intended to experiment on her, seeking to unlock the full potential of her abilities. They kept her in a cell, observing her through reinforced glass, as scientists prepared their instruments. But Lyra was not defeated. She summoned her strength and focused on her training, using her telepathic powers to scan the minds of her captors. She learned their routines, their weaknesses, and began to formulate a plan for escape. She knew Thorn would come for her, and she needed to be ready to seize any opportunity to break free. Each day, the Shadow's scientists conducted various experiments on Lyra, probing her abilities and pushing her to her limits. They were methodical and ruthless, seeking to unlock the secrets of her telepathic and energy manipulation powers. Lyra endured the tests with quiet resilience, using her time in captivity to learn more about her captors and their operations. Through her telepathic abilities, Lyra eavesdropped on conversations and gleaned information about the facility's layout, security protocols, and the intentions of the Shadows. She discovered that the facility was led by Dr. Riven, a cold and calculating scientist obsessed with harnessing her powers for the Shadows' benefit. His ultimate goal was to create a new weapon that could control and dominate entire civilizations. Meanwhile, Thorn, back on the Starfire, was relentless in his search for Lyra. He gathered intelligence from various sources, including sympathetic council members and old allies from his past. Using advanced tracking technology and data provided by Sarah, the ship's AI, Thorn pinpointed the location of the hidden facility within the asteroid belt. Thorn assembled a small, elite team for the rescue mission. Among them were Kai, a skilled hacker who could infiltrate any security system, and Zara, a former soldier with unparalleled combat skills. Together, they devised a plan to infiltrate the facility, rescue Lyra, and escape before the Shadows could mount a counterattack. Under the cover of darkness, the Starfire approached the asteroid, its stealth systems activated to avoid detection. Thorn and his team suited up, each member equipped with specialized gear for the mission. As they entered the asteroid's atmosphere, they steeled themselves for the dangerous task ahead. Using Kai's hacking skills, they bypassed the facility's outer defenses and gained access through a maintenance shaft. Inside, they moved swiftly and silently, avoiding patrols and security cameras. Thorn led the way, his focus unwavering as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors. In her cell, Lyra sensed Thorn's presence through their growing telepathic bond. She knew her moment of escape was near and prepared herself mentally and physically. When the guards changed shifts, she used her abilities to manipulate the locking mechanism on her cell door, timing her actions perfectly with Thorn's arrival. Thorn and his team reached the cell block, neutralizing the guards with precision. Thorn's heart leapt when he saw Lyra, frail but defiant, standing at the threshold of her cell. "Lyra," he called softly, rushing to embrace her. "We're here to take you home." "Thorn," Lyra whispered, tears of relief in her eyes. "I knew you'd come." With Lyra safely in their care, the team retraced their steps, heading towards the extraction point. However, the Shadows had discovered the breach, and alarms blared throughout the facility. Armed guards swarmed the corridors, and Dr. Riven himself activated the security lockdown. The escape turned into a fierce battle as Thorn and his team fought their way through the facility. Lyra, regaining her strength, used her powers to shield her rescuers and disarm their attackers. Her control over energy manipulation had grown, and she created barriers of shimmering light to block incoming fire. Kai worked frantically to override the lockdown, hacking into the central control system to open the exit routes. Zara provided cover, her sharpshooting skills taking down enemies with deadly accuracy. Thorn, ever the leader, coordinated their efforts, ensuring they stayed one step ahead of the pursuing guards. As they reached the hangar bay, a squad of elite Shadows blocked their path. Dr. Riven appeared, his eyes gleaming with a mix of rage and fascination. "You cannot escape, Lyra. Your powers belong to us." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "I belong to no one," she declared, raising her hands. A surge of energy erupted from her, sending Riven and his guards sprawling. Taking advantage of the chaos, the team boarded the Starfire, Kai securing the doors behind them. Thorn powered up the engines, and the ship roared to life. With Lyra and the team safely aboard, they blasted off from the asteroid, navigating through a hail of enemy fire. As they broke free into the open space, the Shadow ships pursued, but the Starfire was faster and more agile. Thorn executed daring maneuvers, evading the enemy and plotting a course to a secure location. With a final burst of speed, they entered hyperspace, leaving the Shadows behind. Thorne's first step was to review all available data from the Starfire's sensors and logs. He and Sarah analyzed the records of their encounters with the shadows, the Akrons, and the various clues they had gathered along the way. The more they delved into the information, the more it became apparent that the shadows had orchestrated the attack on Zarnok to obtain something, or someone, of great value. Sarah, with her vast knowledge and analytical capabilities, suggested that they consult an old ally, a renowned historian and archivist named Ilara, who resided on the planet Lantora. Ilara specialized in ancient galactic civilizations and had access to vast libraries of historical data. Thorne agreed, setting a course for Lantora. Upon their arrival, Ilara greeted them warmly. She was a wise and kind-hearted woman with an extensive network of contacts. Thorne explained their predicament, and Ilara eagerly joined the investigation, delving into her archives for any mention of the shadows, Nixie, and the destruction of Zarnok. After days of research, Ilara uncovered an ancient prophecy and several historical references that spoke of a Nixie child with extraordinary abilities, destined to either unite or destroy the galaxy. The shadows, she theorized, believed Lyra to be this child and sought to control her powers for their own ends. This revelation was a turning point. Armed with this knowledge, Thorne and Lyra knew they had to expose the Shadow's plans to the Galactic Council. They gathered all the evidence they had collected, including recordings of Lyra's memories, data from the Starfire's logs, and Ilara's findings. Returning to Vespera, Thorne and Lyra presented their case to the Council once more. This time, they had compelling evidence and a clearer narrative. The Council was deeply divided, but the weight of the evidence and the undeniable danger posed by the shadows began to sway opinions. With the Council's support, Thorne led a fleet back to the ruins of Zarnok to gather definitive proof of the shadows' involvement. The mission was both a strategic move and a symbolic one, aiming to uncover the truth and honor the memory of those who had perished. As the fleet approached Zarnok, they were met by a massive armada of shadow ships waiting in ambush. It was clear the shadows had anticipated their arrival. The sky above Zarnok lit up with energy blasts and explosions as the two forces clashed. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Thorne, aboard the Starfire, coordinated the fleet's efforts. Lyra, using her abilities, provided crucial support by deflecting attacks and disrupting the Shadow's communications. The combined might of the Galactic Council's forces and Lyra's powers began to turn the tide. Amidst the chaos, Thorne's team discovered a hidden base on the planet's surface. The base contained critical evidence of the Shadow's activities, detailed plans of the attack on Zarnok, records of their experiments on Lyra, and communications revealing their ultimate goal of galactic domination. Thorne ordered a ground assault on the base to secure the evidence. Lyra, determined to confront her past and those responsible, joined the assault team. They fought their way through heavily fortified defenses, with Lyra using her powers to shield her allies and disable enemy forces. Inside the base, they uncovered a central command room filled with holographic displays and data terminals. As Thorne's team downloaded the information, they encountered Dr. Riven, the mastermind behind the Shadow's schemes. He attempted to escape, but was cornered by Lyra and Thorne. "Your plans end here," Thorne declared, leveling his weapon at Riven. Riven, defiant to the end, sneered, "You think you've won? This is only the beginning." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing with a fierce determination. "No, this ends now." She reached out with her mind, disabling Riven's escape route and rendering him powerless. Riven was taken into custody, and the crucial data was secured. With the evidence in hand, the Galactic Council's fleet pressed their advantage, driving the Shadows into retreat. The battle for Zarnok was won, but the war against the Shadows was far from over. Thorne and Lyra knew that they had dealt a significant blow to their enemies, but vigilance and unity would be required to ensure lasting peace. High Chancellor Lauren, a respected leader known for his wisdom and fairness, addressed the Council. "The evidence is clear. The Shadows pose a threat not only to individual planets, but to the entire galaxy. We must unite to stop them." The Council members, representing dozens of species and worlds, debated fiercely. Some were hesitant, fearing the consequences of a full-scale war. Others, inspired by Thorn and Lyra's bravery, called for immediate action. The room buzzed with heated discussions, alliances forming and dissolving in the span of moments. Lyra, sensing the fear and uncertainty, stepped forward. Her presence commanded attention, her voice steady and strong. "I know what it's like to lose everything to the shadows, but I also know that together, we are stronger than they could ever imagine. We have the power to stop them, to protect our worlds and our people." Her words struck a chord, galvanizing those who had been on the fence. The council voted, and a grand alliance was formed, bringing together the military might, resources, and strategic intelligence of multiple civilizations. A coalition task force was established, with Thorn appointed as a senior commander, and Lyra as a key advisor and symbol of unity. Preparations for the final confrontation began in earnest. Fleets were mobilized, supply lines established, and intelligence networks activated. Thorn and his crew, now part of a larger force, worked tirelessly to coordinate efforts, training new recruits and planning strategies. Lyra, using her telepathic abilities, helped to foster communication and cooperation among the diverse allies. On the eve of the battle, Thorn addressed the assembled forces. "Tomorrow, we fight not just for ourselves but for the future of the galaxy. Remember what we've lost, but also what we stand to gain. Together, we will prevail." Lyra stood by his side, her presence a beacon of hope and strength. As they prepared for the final showdown, the unity and resolve of the coalition gave them a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Thorn, aboard the Starfire, led the charge. His voice resonated through the comms, rallying the troops. "All units engage at will, for Zarnok, for our fallen, for our future." The battle erupted with a fury unlike any seen before. Energy beams and missile barrages lit up the void, ships clashing in a deadly dance of tactics and raw power. The Allied forces, though outnumbered, fought with tenacity and coordination. Each civilization brought its strengths to bear, creating a symphony of warfare that overwhelmed the Shadow's defenses. Lyra, stationed in the command center, focused her powers to aid the battle. She extended her consciousness, providing strategic insights and real-time coordination. Her telepathic links allowed fleet commanders to act with a level of precision and unity that the Shadows had not anticipated. She also used her abilities to disrupt enemy communications and sow confusion among their ranks. On the ground, elite strike teams led by Thorn infiltrated key installations on Viridian. Their mission was to disable the planet's defense grid and take down the Shadow's command center. The fighting was intense, with every corridor and room becoming a battleground. Thorn's leadership and Zara's combat prowess turned the tide in their favor, each victory bringing them closer to their objective. Inside the Shadow's command center, Dr. Riven, now cornered, activated a last-ditch effort to turn the battle. He unleashed a prototype weapon designed to amplify Lyra's abilities and bend them to his will. The device created a massive energy vortex, threatening to consume both Allied and Shadow forces. Lyra, sensing the imminent danger, directed her focus to the energy vortex. Drawing on her deepest reserves of strength, she countered the weapon's effects, stabilizing the energy and redirecting it away from the battlefield. The effort was immense, pushing her powers to their limits. Thorn and his team breached the command center, confronting Dr. Riven in a final showdown. Riven, desperate and unhinged, unleashed his own arsenal of experimental technology. The battle was fierce, but Thorn's determination and Lyra's guidance proved overwhelming. Riven was finally subdued, and the weapon deactivated. With the Shadow's leadership in disarray and their forces crumbling, the Allied fleet pressed their advantage. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled or destroyed, their strongholds falling under Allied control. The battle, though hard-fought and costly, ended in a decisive victory for the coalition.